So this is a BR313 special report from Kirkwall in Orkney. If I look a bit tired, it's about 5 a.m. and we got up early. So I've been in Orkney now for a couple of days, and it's been a life-changing experience, way ahead and way more profound in how it affected me than I expected. What surprised me most of all was two things. One, a sense of familiarity, and two, I've been here before, and two, how even in 2022, this feels incredibly remote. And we're really, not that far away from Scotland. And for some reason, culturally and every other way, it feels very, very remote. I feel a long way from home, and I feel further away from home here than I have felt in many other parts of the world, even like in Eastern Europe and stuff like that, or America. So this is a real step into the past. They've managed to avoid, a lot of the sort of cultural toxic things of the modern world. It's just like anywhere else. All kinds of people live here, but there's something, it reminds me of Ireland before, the 1990s. It has that feeling about it. Before globalization took over Ireland. Now, of course, it's famous for the megaliths. Now, Orkney itself is a group of islands to the north of Scotland in the North Sea. The name Orkney comes from a very, very ancient Irish word. So the Irish were here a long time ago, we're talking pre-Roman times, pre-Pictish times. And, the pre-sort of Del Riada times when the Irish had invaded Scotland and gave it its name, and when they were trying to attack the Romans in Britain. They were trying to invade Britain via Scotland and attack the Romans. So the Irish were here in very, very ancient times and gave it the name in the Old Irish Inishorak, which means the land of the boar, the land of the small boar. And so that's the Irish named it first. When the Romans came here, and they did come here under Tacticus, they named it Orcadia, which is an interesting play on words there. And when the Norwegians arrived in the 900s, the Vikings, they, like they did with a lot of the Irish words, they kind of did their own play on them, and they changed it to Orkja, which means the land of the noble seal, or something like that, similar to that, the land of the noble seal. And so that became Orkney that we know today. It was a very important sea route between Scandinavia, Norway, and Ireland. And that's probably, I'm sure I have ancestry probably here, because the sea route between Dublin and Nordland, which is the area north of Trondheim in Norway, it was the main Viking sea route. And so my ancestors, when I was in Nordland in Norway a couple of times a few years ago, it was a good few years ago now, but I was struck by how many of the fellas there looked like me. They could all have been my cousins or my brothers. They looked very similar to me. And so there's definitely an ancestral code for me personally on this island. I feel it strongly as anything, a sense of familiarity. I've been here before, not just in a reincarnation sense, but it's ancestral codes kind of thing. Now, of course, Orkney is famous for its colossal number for its small size. Again, this is what's left of what was probably a larger landmass. And that comes into the Atlantis story, which we'll talk about later. But, and not too much detail, by the way. And so, you've got, standing stones that must be like 4 meters high. They're and they're only this thin. Stromness. And, it was all there. I got some beautiful photographs, which you'll see in time, and video footage of the standing stones with snow-covered mountains between them. And in that sense, it was powerful. I went to the Ring of Brogner, which surprised me was it had no spiritual vibe to it, although I thought it was magnificent to see it. It was purely architecture, but you're talking about at least something that's at least 5,500 years old, and it had flushing sanitation systems. Now, that is totally out of the churchy view of archaeology we're given. So there was definitely, and again, that's where the stone spheres have been found that are obviously been machined. They're too well made to be just random. So that ties in the story that myself and Neil MacDonald are working on, a film about the Atlantis Empire, the Atlantean Empire, put it that way. And we'll present all these things to you at the end in September. We'll have to watch the film for free on Beyond Room 313. And we'll be doing a special premiere in England as well. So, aside from, I'm going to leave the megalithic stuff for another time. I want to talk about personal feelings about the place. Like I said, a sense of familiarity. Now, and there's also a big Knights Templar in Kirkwall. There's a cathedral, it's a small cathedral, it's a cathedral. And it's a magnificent building actually across the road, and it's very Knights Templar. So the Templars came here, obviously, but why they came here is part of the greater story of the continuation of the Atlantean myth into the mystery school tradition, which we will present in a case in the film as one more addition to the mix of Atlantean stories. In fact, how Neil and I became friends is because he heard a video of me talking about Atlantis, and I'd like to make a film about it one day. Chaos Magic. And Jason and Timothy are big fans of the whole Atlantis stuff as well. So Chaos Magic. So here we are. Now, anyway, personal feelings. I in terms of it's very interdimensional. Time is very strange here. It's a remarkable how you could be going around for hours and hours and hours and think you think like a whole day has passed and only an hour has passed. So that plays into my theory that different places have different times. When they say when we go to the southern states in the USA, they will talk about, can you do it in a New York minute? I mean, do it now. A New York minute is like an instant, a second. And I really do believe that time is perceived differently in different places concerning the environment, the culture, and so on, and the psychological framework of the society that you're in. And time here goes incredibly slow, and you can get a lot packed in time, in a period of time that you would not normally be able to do anywhere else. So that was fascinating too. In terms of like the sort of like esoteric magical things, this is not the Shi are not here. They may have been when the original Irish arrived, and when the Romans took over here, they may have gone then. There's no sense of Roman gods or archetypes like you get in the south of pagan gods that you get in the south of England and say parts of Wales. But what you really do get is the Nordic. The goblins and the owls are here, especially along the coastline. You feel them very strongly along the rocky shorelines. That's the land of like goblins and elves. They're there. The Nordic interdimensionals are there. Absolutely no doubt about it. You can feel them so strongly. And again, because my ancestry is Norwegian, there is a sense of that there. I was sensitive to it. And so it's a beautiful place, and it's bigger. It's also like a TARDIS. It looks on the map not that big, but when you get here, it's like huge, it's really big. And it's got tall mountains with snow on them, which I didn't expect. And at this time of year, they got snow on them. And vast peat bogs like you get in Ireland. And the soil here is extremely fertile because of the sea and the organic matter from the sea coming in over the centuries. And it's a very, very good place for agriculture. They can grow just about anything here. So it's a bit like Summer Isle in The Wicker Man. And it's a very fertile soil. The climate is kept mild by the Gulf Stream. And so, that's the BR313 special report from Orkney. And look out for tonight. We'll have myself and Neil will be on The Week in Strange with Timothy and Jason. And in September, our Atlantean spectacular documentary. Okay. Thank you very much and look after yourselves. And that was being a BR313 special report from Orkney with me, Thomas Sheridan.